Imagine waking up to find your chickens gone. No sound, just feathers on the ground, and that sick feeling in your stomach. And the sad thing is, you did everything right except for protecting them against the predators. Don't let your story be this. Today, I'm going to show you how to build a fortress, not just a chicken coop, so your flock stays safe from the most common threats that are out there in the land, in the air, and even underground. And I'll share one mistake almost every beginner makes that puts their chickens at risk. Welcome to my live stream. My name is Jordan, and I really appreciate you joining me. So, after we talk about some of the predators that are looking to eat our chickens, we'll move into how we can protect our chickens. Then I'll answer all of your questions and finally reveal yesterday's community quiz on my YouTube community tab. Whether you're joining me live or on a replay, then if you comment, I will check it and I will reply. What is the current world record for the most eggs ever laid in 1 year? That's my community question that I posted yesterday. If you know the answer, comment down below, and I'd love to see what your guesses is. I actually went back a couple of different times, and just to make certain, I found a couple sources because I couldn't even believe the answer. Let's start with a quick reality check. Predators are smart, fast, and determined. When we're raising chickens, your job is not just to keep them happy and healthy, but also safe. Here are 3 different types of predators you'll face and why each one matters. The first one is land predators. Raccoons, foxes, and coyotes, and one that often gets overlooked and unfortunately got into my chickens is loose dogs from maybe our neighbors or just wild dogs in the area. These are extremely important to protect against because these are the ones that can really do some serious damage to our coop and our flock that's inside of it. The second are air predators, hawks and owls and other predator flying birds that are out there. These are very important to know about because they can actually swoop down and grab a bird without anybody watching. Then they'll carry it off into another place and you won't even realize until you go to put your birds away that you are missing one. And the third is predators that dig. Rats, weasels, foxes, and mink will tunnel right underneath your chicken coop. And the worst part about any of these 3 predator types is that once they find out you raise chickens, they will just keep coming back and back until they've gotten them all. So now that we know what you're up against, let's talk about how to stop them. And yes, it is actually possible to beat them at their own game. So we really need to break down our security methods into different parts. That way we can have the perfect defense against the predators our chickens face. The first and most common predators that are going to want to eat our chickens come from the land. But don't worry, here are 3 different ways that we can protect against them. The first way that we can protect against them is using the correct fencing around the chicken coop. So right here is what poultry fencing is. As we look at it, we can see that poultry fencing is really common because it is pretty cheap and it's very well known. They're going to have these hexagon shapes instead of square on them. But the problem is that since they are woven and since they are kind of flexible, the predators can actually get right through the chicken wire and right into our run and into our chicken coop. So I highly suggest that you use the stronger 1/4 inch or 1/2 inch by 1/2 inch poultry netting and hardware cloth. So for the run, we would want to use a maybe 1 inch by 2 inch square. They come in large rolls. I've seen them all the way up to 150 yards per roll. And then for the vents, for the nest boxes to keep them covered if you need to have extra screens to protect against land animals, or for the vents, we want to use a 1/2 inch by 1/2 inch. That will keep any paws and any claws from getting our chicken coops and grabbing and pulling it away. So as we are protecting against the predators, the second way would be to lock our doors and nest boxes with predator-proof latches. Have you ever seen a raccoon stuck in your trash can? Well, that's because these cute animals are extremely smart. And so we need to think like a raccoon. If it's easy to open, sometimes it can be not secure. So the third way is does not actually cost us any money. It's simply to close up our coop at night. The doors, whether it be a man door or a chicken door, are sometimes our last defense between an animal getting in the run and into the chicken coop. Animals that cannot get the prey that they're after sometimes will just simply move on to find an easy, less protected animal that they can eat. But what if the predators are coming from above us? And here are two easy ways that we can protect against aerial predators. The first way is by covering our run with netting or wire to keep hawks or owls out, or I have actually a clear plastic sheeting. It costs more, of course, than a net would, but it works the same way. It allows our chickens to get the sunlight that they really need, but stay protected. So if something tries to swoop down, it hits that instead of being able to hit and grab our chickens. Sometimes our chickens, though, are in such a large run, or we're free ranging it, that we just flat can't afford to cover the area. And that's when you would use number two. So especially if you're free ranging and don't have a fence at all, sometimes simply giving them bushes or tall weeds that they can get into, or a lean-to, or even a small table, if you leave one outside, they can run underneath it and get away from hawks and other birds from the air. And all of these are good, but sometimes predators will be very persistent and just dig underneath our coop. But don't worry, here are 3 inexpensive ways that you can stop predators that dig. The first way is to buy a hardware cloth, that 1/2 inch by 1/2 inch that I showed you guys, underneath the ground. Bury this 12 to 18 inches right underneath the run, so that as the animal digs, it's going to hit the metal. And don't worry, if you can't bury it, I'm in the same situation that you would be in. And if you run the hardware cloth, you dig enough of the soil so that you can put the dirt and then the grass right back on top of it. You can actually run the hardware cloth pretty much on top of the land and just run it about 2 foot out. That way, the same thing. The predator will dig underneath it, and then once they hit that steel, they'll run away to a different place that is not as secure, because predators are looking for a meal, or they're looking for sport in the case of a mink, and they are trying to find the easiest thing that they possibly can get. And the second way that doesn't actually cost that much is raising your coop up off the ground. This will prevent predators if you didn't bury your wire underneath the ground from being able to dig down underneath the ground and right up into our chicken coop without being noticed. If our chicken coop's raised up, we're going to be able to see the hole that something's dug. Maybe it dug the hole the first time and was deterred once it got to the wood of the chicken coop. But if it's above ground, we're going to be able to see it. So put your chicken coop up on 4x4s or 6x6s, railroad ties, or even simply cinder blocks. And this will allow you to see the floor of the chicken coop to ensure that nothing is digging right up into the coop. And the third way is actually completely free. We need to keep the area clean. Food and food scraps, feed bags, those are the perfect recipe for mice and rats. Not only when we go into the chicken coop are they actually going to probably scare us when they jump out, but they can scare our chickens and they can actually attack our chickens, and they can also go and carry diseases. All of those things are something that we don't want. So simply keeping our chicken feed in totes or in trash cans can really help prevent a mice or a rat or a rodent problem. And all of these are very powerful steps and very useful things to do. But if you could only do one thing to upgrade your chicken coop this weekend, how would you do it? And what would you do? So I personally would install a hardware cloth as an apron to my chicken coop around the outside run. Simply scraping off the top layer of that soil and running it out about 2 foot and then putting the soil back on top of it will get it down low enough that an animal could dig down, hit that, and then run away. And it'll also do a secondary thing, which is help strengthen the bottom of our fence, where sometimes the bottom of our fence can actually be the weakest point of our fence. And I really appreciate you sticking around. So here are 3 bonus tips. 1, use a motion sensor and a solar light so that when an animal comes up into the area, that light actually comes on, illuminates them, and startles the animal. Sometimes something as simple as that can get the animal to run away. 2, use a trail cam. These are very powerful things because it actually allows us to see at night what may be getting into our chicken coop, or at least what's around our chicken coop and walking. The winter is a really fascinating time for me because I can actually see with the snow what paw prints are in the yard, and most of the time we have deer paw prints, which that's fine and that's not going to bother our chickens that much, but we have coyote paw prints. And we need to make certain that we are actually protecting from what is going on around us. And 3, like I said before, make certain that we are storing our feed in trash cans or in Rubbermaid totes that things can't get inside of, and also that it's not just a spillover of food that mice and rats would really smell out and want to get in. If you are in bear country, you also want to make certain that things that you are doing are following the best protocols for the bears, because I know that bears can also be a massive problem when you're talking about food and food sources. Okay, so now to your questions. In question number 1 is, one day, one of my chickens just vanished. We looked everywhere for it, and sadly it is gone. They were in a fenced-in run, and there were no feathers on the ground. So what they're talking about is a kill site. what could have gotten it? And sadly, what sometimes happens is a large bird from the air grabs the animal, the chicken, and or the duck. I've had call ducks that have had the similar fate, grabs it from the ground and swoops down and carries it off. So a lot of times that, unfortunately, could be your predator. Again, if you had cameras that you were able to see, or sometimes the hawks just are out in the daylight. We've had one that literally we turned our back, a hawk swooped down and it carried away a large, like standard white leghorn male. And it's crazy that something that was probably a good 8 or 9 pounds, it was a massive chicken, was able to be just swooped down off the ground. And honestly, had we not seen it in the air, we wouldn't have even known what had happened and that he was missing. So sorry for you losing your chicken, but that's a great question and I really appreciate it. And I hope that in the future it helps you so that you can protect them. Whether you give them more spaces to run away from predators and hide from predators, or you're able to cover your run. So question number 2 is, how do I know what predators are in my area before I even get chickens? A lot of people are getting new chickens, so I really appreciate this question. And this question really, if you are from that area, you would have an idea. So for us, we have coyotes, we have hawks. Cooper hawks are a really big deal around here. We have owls, and we have mink, and possums and raccoons. So those are all the potentials. There's probably more out there, even neighbors' dogs, which I've figured out, that are out there. But then you have to go in and you have to zone into where you actually live. If you live around a water source around me, you will have mink that cross over on your property. It is a given thing. And mink are like a little wild ferret. The problem with mink is that once they get into your chicken coop, they actually kill for sport and they can wipe out your entire chicken coop. Using that 1/2 inch by 1/2 inch wire that I had talked about, getting our chicken coops up off the ground, and also going and playing a radio in the chicken coop can all help with that. So I really appreciate it. And question number 3 is, why do some people have a radio in their chicken coop? And I kind of talked on it here just a second ago. Some predators do not like humans. If you went and if you had a coyote, they're not going to be friends unless they are coy coyotes with humans. And coy coyotes are a problem, especially around here. Their wild dogs have crossed into, or dogs people have let loose, have crossed into the coyote population, from what I understand. And that coy coyotes are not afraid of humans. But most predators are going to be afraid of humans. Simply the sound of the radio, the music playing, or a radio talk show can actually deter predators. A second good thing about a radio, and why some people have them in their chicken coop, and I highly suggest a radio in a chicken coop, is that if there's a loud, unexpected sound, chickens actually are very startled, as you would know, but can drown out that sound sometimes through that radio. If you look it up, there's some people that believe that their chickens love talk show radio hosts. There's some chickens that love blues. So you can experiment with your radio stations there and your music types, or you can put it on your favorite. But we're trying to drown out the sounds from unexpected noises and also make certain that there are sounds to keep predators away. So I really appreciate everybody's questions. And yesterday, I had a really cool chicken fact. The chicken fact was, what is the world record for the most eggs produced in a year? Is the answer 371, 364, 350, or 325 eggs per year? The crazy thing is that the most eggs ever laid in a year was 371 eggs in 365 days. I know it says 364 days right here. I forgot there's an extra day in the year. But it was a white leghorn in 1979. So a very interesting fact for you for the day. I really appreciate you joining me on my live stream, and I hope you have a great one. Bye.